Ray Dalio and Robert Kiyosaki just gave a pretty scary warning to the markets. Now, these are two people that have been very known for how well they're able to operate within these type of environments, especially within the global tensions and how it deals with China and especially the New World Order. So, I think as of lately, Americans and really just people all over the world have been very uncertain about where we're headed, right? With the uncertainties of AI, with the adoption of cryptocurrencies, with how all these other these companies within the S&P 500 are not holding up to their valuations against the big dogs like Apple, Microsoft, etc. Now, there's a couple of these companies that are starting to trickle away. For example, I'll talk about Amazon here, who recently had a pretty large unemployment. Uh, so a lot of people got fired essentially within Amazon, but also their numbers haven't exactly been the best as of late. So not all the companies within the S&P 500 are good investments in this current day and age. And I'll be breaking down quite a bit of this in this live stream. So this will be a little bit different than my typical one, where I definitely focus altcoins as a crypto analyst. But we have to understand that we are in bear winter, and we have to understand what the macro conditions look like before altcoins are able to gain that dominance. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and jump into, and I actually was doing this live stream for about 8 minutes and my internet went out. So I'm kind of redoing all this, but as you can see up here, the Bitcoin dominance, this is something that not a lot of people are talking about, 56%. So it's starting to trickle. Within even alt seasons in like 2025, we had a couple of them. 2024, we had a couple more. The Bitcoin dominance would essentially trickle down to like the lower 50s. Now, a lot of people, they don't understand exactly how within a bear market, Bitcoin actually typically holds up better than most altcoins, but that's because most altcoins fell first, right? So most altcoins are already down 70% plus. Bitcoin is going to take it going through Q2 into Q3 to really hit that 40K and possibly lower. So within cryptocurrencies in general, altcoins always get hit hard, fast. Bitcoin is a laggard. So that's why the Bitcoin dominance is now within the macro conditions, starting to trickle back into the lower 50s. And I would not be surprised to see it go into the upper 40s within the next couple of months. So again, most of the altcoins have already taken their hit, their beating, and Bitcoin, it's its turn. So let's go ahead and jump into what other, wrong screen. There we go. Oh, like my first live stream or something. Let's go into some of the trending cryptocurrencies, and then we will jump into the macro news because I started a little bit late today. So hopefully the internet sticks up this time. We have a lot of new cryptocurrencies, and I want to emphasize this enough. It's not time to be jumping into aping into different degen projects, new cryptocurrencies. Right now is the time to be stacking, lowering those DCAs on the blue chip cryptocurrencies. And again, this is not financial advice. It's just somebody who's been there, done that. I made a ton of money off of crypto, and I've lost some money on crypto as well. So I'm right here in the trenches with you guys, and I'm trying to figure out how do I make enough money between this decade, the next decade, to set my family up for success, and is figuring out which altcoins to buy and when. So without further ado, you got your pudgy penguins of the world. This thing's been trending for a while now. I don't think it's turn to be able to get plays like this, but again, you see Ethereum up there, you see BitTensor, you see Aave, you see Solana, you see Bitcoin, Hyperliquid, even Aerodrome. I think it's okay to lower those DCAs on Aerodrome. XRP, that's a big one there. Now, with most of these other altcoins, I would not be getting really any exposure to. River, for example, Venice token. We just talked about Pudgy a little bit. Pi Network, I'd stay away from that one. Zora is an altcoin that I like, but again, we're not in the right season to buy it. What other ones? We have World Liberty 5, not a big fan of that one, and then Monad I would stay away from. So always think about the broader sentiment of just macro economics and crypto before you jump into coins, right? So you could have solid projects. I just talked about Zora. I think Coinbase is doing a phenomenal job on bringing social content creators on chain through that application. But again, these are projects that are highly speculative. A lot of early insiders still have a good bag, and you could be exit liquidity if we're not in the right season. So what I'm waiting for is probably later this year going into 2027 before I get into the more speculative plays. But remember, 2027 all the way through 2029 should be up and right typically. And that's whenever we should be very happy. And the only way to be happy is to prepare ourselves in bear winter, which is currently. So the only way to prepare yourself is not to buy every dip you see, is to lower those DCAs as time goes and then save more for further down to go. So I still think we go down to the 40K, and I'm about 70% certain on that. I still think we're going to go down to 40K, and that's when I will personally be deploying a ton of capital. So I'm just sitting on the sidelines with my dry powder, having some fun, and that gives me 3 years of up and right happiness that we had. So, all right, let's go ahead and jump into some fear and greed chat. So if this wants to load up for me, let's go ahead and scroll down here. So the fear and greed indicator, I talked about this last live stream. It's almost as bearish as I've ever seen. Now, last month being neutral, I would definitely combat that. I think last month was definitely fearful, but extreme fear on the now, the yesterday, and last week. And you might be asking, why are we in extreme fear now? You know, last week definitely, but why now? And the global tensions have not let up. We still have quite a bit going on in the Middle East right now, and people do not like that. So markets love certainty, especially crypto. Crypto's treated as a risk asset. There's certain markets that don't like certainty, and this would be gold, for example. So gold, crypto, think of it as two different asset classes that move counterproductive to each other. But eventually, I think Bitcoin will be digital gold. And it takes this time. It takes time and adoption to make that happen. And eventually, it will be a hedge against not only inflation, but all the global currencies that will continue to get hit by hyperinflation. And then they lose their value over time. So that's what the fear and greed index looks like. I always like to emphasize that you want to buy when people are fearful and you want to sell when others are greedy, because my favorite investor of all time, Warren Buffett, around that phrase. And if you scroll down here, this is a little bit better of a chart. You go down to max, and you can see there's very few times in history that we go sub 10. Let me get out the way. And these are always going to be your best times to buy. So buying crypto right now is not a bad idea. You know, it may go down a little further, but it was much better now than back in November or October of last year. So if you didn't know, I dropped a video yesterday, Canton versus Ondo, and you guys are loving it. So I figured I will drop a video on Canton, just a deep dive. It's Canton by itself, and this is going to go out on Thursday. So I'll probably jump into scripting it right after this. But I love this project. I'll tell you that. If you haven't watched that video yet, after this, make sure you watch it because it is a banger. You guys have definitely supported me over there, and these are two communities that I'm fully backing. And if you want to follow me on other socials, all you have to do, this is my YouTube video, is just scroll down into the description. You'll see a Discord, an X, a TikTok, and an Instagram. All you got to do is click any of these that you might be a fan of. Here's, Instagram, for example. And then you could be one of my top 100 followers. I guess I'm not logged in right now. But you could be one of the top 100 people to subscribe to my content. And get this, I will be one of the biggest content creators next bull market. And I'm saying that now because if I throw it out into the atmosphere, that's how stuff with fruition can come to be. So my confidence is getting there. I'm getting better on my live streams. I'm definitely getting better on my static content. And it's because of you guys helping me hone my craft. So be one of the first 100 on my Instagram. Again, it's new, and you'll always have that in mind. So now this right here is why the market has been selling off as of late, is your global tensions that I talked about earlier. You got Russia, China, Iran deploying ships for joint exercises in the Strait of Hormuz. Now, very important to note here is this is just what we call an escalation of force. This has nothing to do with actual casualties happening. People aren't being, shot. Vehicles, boats, or crafts aren't being destroyed right now. It is, we have a show of force, which is showing a lot of the strongest militaries in the world, showing what kind of combat they're able to do. So their activities, their crafts, and these types of things. So it definitely puts the world on edge, and it definitely puts the markets on edge. And it's not just them. The United States is actually been pretty proactive, I think, across the past week or so. But again, this is one of our biggest, if not our biggest aircraft, and it's being escorted by destroyers. And it's left the Caribbean and is now in the mid-Atlantic. So we're definitely continuing to keep those reports on this because, again, you can't have cryptocurrencies popping off if the world is not at ease. So definitely something you want to continue to focus on. Also, T-Shroom, He's been doing a phenomenal job over there. He goes live every Monday to Friday. It's in the morning too, so you can definitely get his take on these types of things, as he typically goes more in depth on them than I do. So let's continue moving down the line. We have what most of you guys clicked on here for is your boy Ray Dalio, and he just warned everybody, America is going broke. So hyperinflation is coming, and it's coming faster than anyone expected or prepared for. This is not a drill. So this right here, it can be seen as clickbait. I do understand a lot of people don't think that America is going to lose its world hedge power. I'm not here to confirm nor deny. I definitely biasly would say I think America is the best country. Just want to throw that out there. But there's a lot of things that could go wrong with the next couple of years. And if you really pay attention to what Ray Dalio has put out, because I do think that, like, in the long term, he paints the best pictures of how, like, new world orders come to be, right? He's the one who taught me about how 80 to 100 years, you have world reserve currencies, they survive, they flourish, and eventually they collapse. George Soros and what he did with the British pound went down as a legendary move, one of the best investing opportunities and riskiest opportunities of all time. So people take advantage of these conditions. And with stablecoins, we're actually able to take advantage of some of it. So you don't have to be like the smartest investor ever, but if you're buying the gold and the Bitcoins of the world, there's a way to play this market to be able to save your purchasing power, even if America collapses. So that's what I love most about Bitcoin, is whether America does great or bad, we should have a brighter future within this asset class, crypto in general. So let's go back to Ray Dalio and hear his take on this.
The way we will do it.
How are we going to solve this problem?
We're going to do it the way that we always do it, and it's always done when countries essentially go broke. What they do is they, through a combination of devaluing the currency, printing of money, there's an imbalance. They print money, devalue the currency, and create an artificially low interest rate so that the person who's holding the bonds is receiving an artificially low interest rate. That's the way Japan has done it with their local, and that's the way we will do it.
So in other words, my grandchildren and great-grandchildren not yet born are going to be paying off this debt in devalued dollars, more or less.
It's going to happen faster than that.
Faster than that.
All right, so he's saying faster than that. He just asked, my children and my grandchildren to be paying off this debt, and Ray Dalio is saying they're not even going to have the opportunity. This is on us, right? And if you think about it, generations and generations are the ones who put us in this position. So, it's something you have to eventually come to realize is, like, you look at these 401ks, you look at all these opportunities of stock markets going up and up and up and up, and you got to ask where that money came from. So something I've been spotlighting is really how fractionalized reserve banking, in my opinion, is what has started all of this, is where the banks are able to lend our money out against us. They charge us 20% on our credit card debt, school loans, so many different ways in America to go into debt. But a lot of times they use this debt against us. So they continue lending out money that doesn't even exist, and we invest that money, and eventually it is a house of cards. So Ray Dalio, he is screaming from the rooftops. I actually believe him. I think that within the next 10, 20 years that not so much going to say America is going to lose its world reserve like currency, but I think it's going to have to evolve into stablecoins, because stablecoins are the superior technology. So it's more or less, I believe in how technologies evolve, as opposed to like some like understanding that America has to fall for others to flourish. I think we're just going to position ourselves more towards where governments work together all across the world, and they use the same assets, which include USDC, USDT, Bitcoin, etc. And I think it's actually healthy for the world to go in that direction. So you guys let me know. Do you guys agree with Ray Dalio? I mean, he's a doomsdayer, and I think he's always good to have in your pocket no matter what. If you're permeable and you think that the 4-year cycles are broke, I understand. There's multiple ways to look at it, and all of them actually make sense. I can paint very many reasons why we should head right into a bull market, and I'll actually get more into the Market Clarity Act here shortly. But I think it's always fair to have as many bearish reasons as you have bullish reasons and then you figure out what to do with that analysis on whether you can invest into something risky or not. So for Crux in his household, he is sitting in dry powder. I have a good amount of crypto that I bought like 4 years ago that I'm still not going to sell. So wrote it up. I'll be writing it down. And I just haven't bought in a couple years, so I'll be using all that dry powder going into Q3, Q4 this year, and that's my plan, right? If it doesn't play out, it's okay because I planned for something and it didn't work. That's the best way to invest. What you don't want to do is be super reactive and see, one of these USS destroyers going into, the Caribbean or just wherever, and then you start selling your bags because you start freaking out because of these near-term actions, because we've seen from 1 week to the next, especially in 2026, everything can change. Nobody's really talking about Minnesota anymore, right? That was a hot topic about 2 to 3 weeks ago, and it seems like people are starting to move on a little bit towards the macro conditions. So we really don't know what next week brings. And again, markets don't like that, and really just got to strap in for the ride and just be prepared, diversify yourself, have the dry powder for lower prices, and listen to other takes like mine, Tim, T-Shroom, and others in the comments. So make sure y'all post. I'll be reading those right here shortly. But first, let's go ahead and jump into Robert Kiyosaki's take. So Robert Kiyosaki, he has a different take than Ray Dalio does. He talks more about Bitcoin in particular than Ray Dalio would. Ray Dalio is more on the gold front. But I like Robert Kiyosaki as well because he's called a couple of big plays in the past, and let's see what he has to say. So the biggest stock market crash in history is imminent. So he's a doomsdayer, Rich Dad Poor Dad author, and the man who has predicted 50 of the last two market collapses. So, I mean, I don't know where they came up with that 50 of the last two stock market collapses. Seems a little optimistic on that. We haven't had that many crashes as of late, but we will see. So I'm warning you, published in 2013, I warned on the biggest stock market crash in the history is coming. He did. I will be honest, he did warn that one. That crash is imminent now. So I think what a lot of people are starting to expect is that AI is going to drive this crash. And that makes the most sense of all of it. So AI has definitely changed the way that we see really how society operates. We see how these AI agents are able to pioneer websites in real time, and all you have to do is prompt it and tell it what you want it to do for you. So build me a website in HTML.CSS and add a carousel with 7 pictures, with 3 of them being this, that, and the third. So you could just type it and it builds it for you. And this removes a lot of the software engineers, and I think they're going to be the first to go. But eventually you get down to the point where you add robotics on top of this. So what Tesla has created with Optimus is absolutely crazy. And you have AI, you have robotics, and it absolutely disrupts every single field. There's no field out there that's not going to be disruptive. So you're listening to me. I am a human being right here in front of you doing a live stream. Eventually, you may see an AI where it's not even a person. And he's probably going to be more accurate than me. Why? Because he has all of this data embedded into his really whatever position that he's taking, and we will see how that disrupts YouTubers and even just like the automation of how vehicles work. So this is like disrupting Uber. Even go to AMC, you have somebody serving you some popcorn to watch with your movie. Optimus could do that. So we're heading into that society. I consider it like the next industrial revolution where everything completely changes and society is going to have to adapt and overcome. So I do believe that crypto is going to be one of those fundamental pillars into the next phase of society, and Bitcoin will be leading the way. So if you guys hold some Bitcoin, throw some B's in chat, because I think Bitcoin right now is the best risk to reward in any asset class, especially after this 40 to 50% pullback that we're currently sitting in, and is offering us some very good prices to go ahead and start nibbling on. So do we go down to 40K? I think so, but nibbling on these prices is not the wrong thing. So something else you can nibble on is our memberships. We have 3 different Whop memberships right now. We have the Essentials, the Academy, and the Gem Hunters. For our VIP trading group, they are making money even in bear winters. They're able to short the markets. They can find predictable patterns, and with that over 50% probability rate, make money on that trade. So you could add leverage on top of the trade, and you can make quite a bit of money over there in the Essentials, which is the VIP trading group. Next, we have the Academy. So there is a 60+ video series on how to take your trading from rookie to pro, taught by Tim Warren. So, and then also I teach you how to build that perfect portfolio here in the Academy. And then lastly, we have the Gem Hunters, where we find those low cap gems. So if you're thinking about supporting this channel, you got those 3 different Whop memberships, and I appreciate all of the love you guys give me. Let's go ahead and jump into some of these Q&As that you guys have. So, all right. A couple of you guys probably upset that I started a little late, and I do apologize. P. Drizzy, all in. Thank you. Manit says, let's go, Crux. I pray all is well. It's Daniel. Got my XRP bag filling up. I dropped an XRP versus Canton video the other day, and it's closing on 4,000 views. So you guys are loving it. I dropped a deep dive on XRP last week, and honestly, it didn't do that well. And I'll be honest, I think I got hit by some of the stuff I talked about in the video. And again, this is the type of stuff I do on my channel. Is I could do my versus videos, and if you look at any of them, they're getting thousands and thousands of views. And for a channel my size, that's very good. I can continue to spam that and make my content go up, right? I want to give you guys the real facts. So if you look at my XRP video, I say some of the words. I'm not going to say it here because most likely this live stream is probably not going to get pushed out, but I speak about stuff that it's not going to chase the views. If, for example, my Bitcoin foundational videos, they didn't get the best views. The ones where I talked about the October top, I talked about all these things. And anytime I mention Bitcoin, it doesn't get the best views. People love specific things, and I get it. So I'm doing what is best for my community as opposed to chasing views, and you guys are loving it. So all in Plume. Okay, Drizzy is not very happy about Plume in general. I hold my Plume. I'm down quite a bit on my Plume. Will it recover? I don't know. I'll be honest. I think it's like 50-50. I'm not going to sell it. You know, definitely not at its current prices. What I'd most likely do is wait until like 2029, where my XRP, my Bitcoin bags, all my other altcoins are going to be doing way better. And then I just write off my losses from Plume into one of my better bags. So 2 projects that I think are better than Plume in the real world asset space. I actually did a one-on-one versus video, and I dropped it yesterday. So that would be Canton, and that would be Ondo Finance. So these are 2 RWA players. They're also down as well. So I wouldn't sell my Plume and go run out and buy those, but I think there's better RWA plays than Plume. So Plume is sub 100 mil. I think at one point got up to 300 mil market cap. And it is a low cap cryptocurrency. So don't put over, 0.5% of your portfolio in these types of plays, because there is a pretty big probability you will make no money from it. So David says, hey bro, been a while since I caught you live. Yeah, appreciate it, David. Thank you for tuning in. And I apologize. It's usually, so this is the first time I really had internet issues kicking off this stream, and it kind of threw my mind. I had to redo like the first 8 minutes of it, so kind of threw me off. I wasn't sure what I talked about the first time that I had to talk about the second time, and vice versa. So appreciate you guys, and I actually love it when you guys ask me the questions, because it helps everything move more seamlessly within these live streams. And I actually like engaging with your questions more than I do pushing news. So Angel says, welcome back. Angel was one of my people in my first live stream that when my internet went down, I had to reshoot this live. So good to have you back here, Angel. You are one of the best supporters, one of my favorite supporters here. And Daniel's right there with you. You guys have been awesome, doing a phenomenal job supporting my content. I love you all. Let's see, David. I hear 40K all the time as a target. Gives me 2023 to 2020 or 2022 to 2023 10K vibes. Possible smart money front runs that prediction. Thoughts? All right, so David, I'm gonna be honest, and I don't want to pump my own bags or pat myself in the back. I did a video back in October, and I listed 10 fundamentals and 4 technical patterns on why there's a 60% probability we are in bear winter. And I dropped it in October. And again, these are the videos that I do, and they don't get a ton of views, but they are the most important. So I continue to push these types of videos. And last week, I put a 70% probability that we're headed lower towards 40K. And what I would definitely challenge you to do, David, like we talk about front running and these types of things. A lot of people said this bull market was the institutional cycle. And the number one reason I would dispute that is because retail has 60, well, if we consider all the lost Bitcoin, so there's about 3.5 million Bitcoin that will be lost forever. 80% of the Bitcoin in circulation is owned by retail. 20% is owned by the institutions. Now, if we include the lost Bitcoins, I think it's closer to like 64% is owned by retail. 17% is owned by the institutions. And then I think it's 18% or so that is owned by, well, that's lost forever, right? So what I personally believe and what makes sense is in every asset class, he who owns the supply controls the price. Let me clarify it. So he who holds the supply controls the price because they could dump whenever they want to, right? So the Satoshi Nakamoto's, the Hal Finney's, the Craig Wrights, the Nick Szabos of the world, these guys hold hundreds of thousands of Bitcoin. So if they coordinate every 4th year, we dump off for 1 year, and then we just continue to hold. Let society pump this thing, and then we will dump on them 3 years later. That's what I personally think happens. And I could prove it because within that video that I dropped 2 weeks ago, I showed you the long-term holder chart. So I'm not going to bring it up right now, but you could definitely watch that video. I go way more in depth on this. But the long-term holder chart, it looks like a stair step, right? And what happens is society the price of Bitcoin goes up and right forever, right? These long-term holders who have thousands, hundreds of thousands, even millions of Bitcoin, they wait for society 3 years to buy. It pumps up the price big time. And then they sell for that 1 year. And then once this price and the price of Bitcoin, the realized long-term holder price and the price of Bitcoin finally touch, they stop selling. I'm telling you, it's crazy, like clockwork. I don't see many people talking about it. I talk about it in this video. So I really encourage you to go watch it. As soon as they touch, they stop selling. And guess what happens? Society keeps buying and the price goes up for another 3 years. So I strongly think that this is a coordinated effort of cypherpunks to allow a thorough distribution to everybody without collapsing the price, without collapsing Bitcoin. Because if they sold from, let's say they're mining at $1, it got up to $50, they could have sold at the 50x and collapsed Bitcoin. Some people are holding Bitcoin that they mined at like $5 up to 126K. That's crazy. Who has that kind of conviction? Definitely not an investor. The only person that's going to have that kind of conviction is somebody that is a visionary. They believe in the technology. They're not looking at the number. They don't care if they're getting rich or not. But that's how you distribute it. That's how you distribute tokens of a system without collapsing it. And I think Bitcoin has done a phenomenal job, led by some of the smartest people in the world. So I went a little long-winded there, but that's exactly why I would say institutions do not control the supply. Retail does, and we are at the mercy of all the OGs in Bitcoin. Okay. Angel, I'm ready for the 40K Bitcoin. Boom. Yeah, you could definitely, I'm telling you, I have on my thumbnail 40K Bitcoin in October. Let's see some more. Then we'll jump back into some more news. Hi, Kenny, says Angel. What up, Kenny? Kenny, another one of my favorite guys. He is over there in the Discord crushing it. So what is up, fam? It's been a long time. Won't go into the details. Okay. Oh, the depressing details. Sorry to hear, Kenny. Hey, Kenny, reach out to me in Discord after this. I'm always here for you, brother. Much love, much respect. P. Drizzy wants China to win this battle. Hey, P. Drizzy, as a veteran, we're going to have to fight over this one. So, China, they can do what they're going to do. But, if we go to war, I only got one side I can choose, and it's going to be the United States. So it is what it is. And if you like China, maybe go move over there. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe you don't like them that much. Maybe you just want China to take over the world reserve currency because you rather see their type of society controlling the global reserve currency as opposed to what we do. We create some house of cards that is fabricated out of nowhere, and people believe in it. People really believe in this system, and I think they're going to pay. So I definitely agree with Robert Kiyosaki. I agree with Ray Dalio that it's going to be sooner than later than that whenever these markets really collapse. So I'd rather be sitting in cash because you're able to buy the dips. So will the American dollar continue to go down and right? Yes. But will Apple, Amazon, Nvidia, Tesla go down and right much faster? Yes. So some of these stocks might lose 30, 40, 50%, and then your US dollar only got hit by 2% inflation that year. So rather be holding that. All right. It's good you were a little late, got to catch Rufio live, and got to you right in time. Juby, what up? Man, I got some OGs in here. Love you all. All right. We got a ton of B's in chat. You guys are some Bitcoin hodlers here. We like to hodl Bitcoin through the tough times because that's what makes us more convicted in our stance. And we are the visionaries. Whenever Bitcoin is 1 million, 3 million, 10 million, you will be able to say you bought it sub 100K, and that cannot be taken away from you. So right now you might seem a little late. I get it. You're not 2009 anymore. You know, it's not even 2015. We are in 2026, but still, less than 3% of society has ever invested into cryptocurrency, and you are part of that group. So you should pat yourself on the back. You are exactly where you need to be, not fearful, not just constantly just being scared and not thinking about investing, but you're thinking about how do I take advantage of this monetary system, all these tensions, and you're trying to figure out how to monetize it. And I appreciate that because I'm doing the same. So it's cap on that penguin. So Daniel's not a big fan of Pengu, possibly. I could have sworn, Daniel, that you have some Pengu. Don't tell me you're fading Pengu now. You might have to jump into the Gem Hunters chat channel down there and talk about Pengu because I actually like that one. What about Morpho? It's being bought up. So Daniel, I'm a big fan of Morpho. I'm a big fan of understanding TVL. So TVL is total value lock. It's what essentially, it's the way that you evaluate any application that's built on any decentralized ledger. So Morpho essentially is a borrowing and lending platform. It is partnered with the biggest names like Coinbase, and all of the $100,000 collateralized loans that Coinbase allows, it goes right through Morpho. So I could definitely prove this to you. Let's see if DeFi Llama will work for me. So DeFi Llama is my favorite website as an analyst. And my computer's working a little slow today, but what we'll do is we'll check up Morpho here. And you can see $5.8 billion in TVL. Look at these fees, $270 million in fees. This is a healthy looking chart. When TVL looks good, but your price looks bad, that means the asymmetric upside goes up. So we should lower the DCAs on projects that have good TVL within bear winter, right? And this typically means like your decentralized exchange plays, because you make a ton of money collecting fees on decentralized exchanges, especially perp dexes, but then also borrowing and lending platforms like Morpho. So I think Morpho and Aerodrome are steals at these prices, and I'll continue to say that until proven otherwise, because they're still establishing partnerships, they're still getting those loans. The world moves on no matter what the price of cryptocurrencies are. So very important to know. I like Morpho, and so should you. So let's read a couple more Q&As, and then we'll jump into the next segment of news. What is up, fam? Been a long time. Okay. Kita will melt faces. Look at that. Big Kita fan. Look, next week, so you guys know, once a week I drop versus videos. I dropped XRP versus Canton. I just recently dropped Canton versus Ondo. And guess what? I'll be dropping Kita versus XRP next week. That's a big one. Kita versus XRP. You guys let me know, because it's two whole different crypto projects. You have one that is like, what, maybe 150 mil market cap. I'm not sure exactly what Kita's sitting at. And then you have one that's over 100 billion, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe it's a little under 100 billion now, which is XRP. So, but what I personally like to do is find two projects that have the same goal in mind. And both of these projects, they could both be good, but I have to find the better asymmetric bet, right? So if the market cap is, let's just say, 100 times better, just to make it easy, then the technology should be 100 times better, right? Or the lower one has better asymmetric upside. So What I'll definitely be doing in that video is comparing not only the technologies on which one's faster, like what's a DAG, what XRP is better than Kita at, because there are going to be quite a bit of stuff that XRP is definitely better than Kita. And I'm going to exploit all of that, and then I'm going to choose a winner. And I think you guys will be happy. So if this is your first time, make sure you set those alerts and smash that like so you can see content like that. All right, Catch. See, look, Catch is in the comments. He already says Kita. You ain't even got to watch Crux's video. Trust Catch. It is Kita. And Mike, I wonder what Mike thinks. Mike, I know he's a big believer in Kita as well. If I had $1 for every time Crux says he who controls the price. Yeah, I mean, I got to get it in your head, right? He who controls the supply controls the price, right? You know, think of gold. China owns how much gold? They're the ones who control the price of it. I mean, them in America for the most part. So you can consider it manipulated or whatever, but that's in any asset class. He who controls the supply controls the price. And I would definitely like to be remembered as that phrase holder. Here's another phrase that I had going way back to 2022, where 90% of my portfolio was bought sub 25K Bitcoin. And what I said when I bought my bags, I basically just went all in, which I'm gonna try to do the same thing this bear winter, is put most of my money in Q3, Q4 of this bull market. This bear market going into the next 3 years of up and right, hopefully. Within 4-year cycles, you have to tune out everything, right? So you buy during this period and you sell during this period. Everything else is just noise. So for 3 years, I've been saying everything else is just noise. These are the type of things that I like to be remembered for, because you know, as much as we talk about the Strait of Hormuz, we talk about Iran, we talk about Japan carry trade, we talk about COVID, we talk about all of these different things that collapse markets or make them pump. Crypto's 4-year cycles are still intact within all of that. So until the 4-year cycles break, the trend is your friend until the end. Everything else is just noise. So that in my mind already, I'm selling Bitcoin at 250K in 2029. You know, maybe it's a little higher, maybe it's not, I don't know. But 2029 is going to be the peak. You know, and it's pretty crazy because, again, the trend is your friend until the end. If we start buying in Q3, Q4 this year, people are going to say I got lucky or whatever. It's super simple to me. I just look at the diminishing returns, I look at the diminishing losses, and then I evaluate each cycle accordingly. And that's how I was able to call the top this time. I would love to call the bottom. And again, I'm not the biggest person of I told you so, because again, I got a lot of alt seasons wrong this bull market. I even got some crypto picks wrong, you know. So I'm definitely vulnerable in a sense, but I'm always going to be open. I'm always going to be honest on how I personally think as a crypto investor. What up, Cruxes, Kenny? Hey, do y'all still got the bros hats? Juby. We got the Tim Warren trading hats actually. So Juby, if you're in the Discord, let me know over there. And if you haven't gotten one yet, just let me know and I'll see what I can do for you. All right. Praying for you, Kenny. Yeah. Everybody say a prayer for Kenny tonight. You know, everything else aside, I like to talk crypto. You know, my number one thing in life is following my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. So again, I talked earlier about saying specific things that could get the channel less views. But again, this is too important to me. I'm always going to preach the gospel whenever I have an opportunity. And I think that's super important. So being able to have one of our community members that is currently depressed, and, you know, when they say 2 or more come together in prayer, it's definitely helpful in that aspect. So definitely, if you're a believer, say a prayer for Kenny tonight. And again, Kenny, reach out to me in the Discord and I'll see what I can do with you. All right, Angel is throwing up the US. So Angel is Team Crux. We are Americans over here, and America comes first. So if so, do I qualify temporary academy member? Laugh out loud. Yeah, so Juby, go ahead and reach out to me in Discord. Go ahead and DM me. I know I say don't DM, just DM me. Make sure, because there are scammers out there that pretend to be me. Make sure you're talking to the right Crux, but I'll see what I can do with you there, Juby. Aaron, watching from my office today, Aaron, you're a real one. Like some people, they make excuses. They may be driving, or they may be flying, or they may be doing anything in between, right? Crypto is what you make of it, right? And I'm not saying that you have to tune in every single day. What you can, I mean, honestly, sometimes whenever you tune stuff out, you do much, much better, which I just talked about. But like if you buy here and then you sell here and you don't listen to anybody in between, these are the people that do the best in crypto, right? Which is crazy, you know, because right now you're listening to somebody. But I still think I encourage you to continue to educate yourself, so just so you can know from the macro perspective, you know, what's going on in the world. That's why I think it's important. Not so much like in terms of overall investing. I think the 4-year cycle trumps all of that. But again, watching content like this, I think, is a net positive overall. And I'm going to continue to push this type of sentiment on this channel. Tim said he doesn't think all are doing them anymore. Tim said he doesn't think all are doing. Oh, you're probably talking about the hat, Juby. Well, let me see. So I still have a hat. I might be able to ship it out to you. So shoot, I might even sign it for you. We will see. Juby might get a special hat from Crux. I like Pudgy, but it is trending down. Unfortunately, Pudgy's always trending on terms of CoinGecko. I think it's manipulated over there. So, but I still think Pudgy overall is a solid project. If you're looking into like the gaming and the NFT niche, I just wouldn't have over 5% of my portfolio combined between gaming, NFTs, and just that type of stuff. It's all just super risky. Whoa, Kita versus XRP. So Daniel's super happy on that video. If you weren't here earlier, about 10 minutes ago, I talked about Kita, I talked about XRP. These are both settlement blockchains. They focus peer-to-peer, but they handle them two separate ways. So Kita uses something very interesting. It's proprietary technology called anchors. And within these anchors, you can connect to different banks, different institutions, and you can handle their payments. XRP, they're different. They're actually a little bit more public in terms of how they run their blockchain, the XRPL. But again, they're not focused too much on smart contracts and, you know, all the degen stuff that you see on Solana or Ethereum. So they're definitely global payment settlement layers, and I will be comparing those so you can learn a lot more about them. And then also which one the best asymmetric buy would be. Crux, have you heard of AI network? Unify? Aaron, so honestly, Tau, Virtuals, Render. Those are like the 3 AI projects. Give me one sec. Tau, Virtuals, Render. 3 AI projects. They stick out clearly among the rest. Render has taken a beating. I would say Render, along with all other cryptos that have rebranded, is struggling. So if you look at cryptocurrencies, a lot of times they'll have a ticker, and then they'll go from RNDR to RENDER on a separate blockchain. And there has never been a time in history where a project has rebranded and been successful. So I think that Render really shot itself in the foot. Whenever Ethereum was okay, they should have stayed on RNDR, used the scaling solutions to handle their settlements, use Base, use Arbitrum, Optimism, all of that. You should have just bridged over, as opposed to creating a different token. And I guess they burned the supply that gets bridged, but I don't know. I think they handled that rough. I believe in the fundamentals behind Render. I still hold all my Render, but Virtuals has definitely done well for solidifying itself as the AI agent layer of cryptocurrency decentralized network. And then lastly, we have Tau, which is by far, and I'll talk about here in a second, my favorite decentralized neural network in all of crypto. So I could continue reading y'all's Q&As. You guys are throwing some awesome questions in there, and I would definitely like to talk about them more, but we have to jump into some more analysis because I'm running late. So give me one sec. All right. Crypto is dead. Here's a meme, guys. In the meantime, you see AMX, you see PayPal, Visa, PNC Bank, BlackRock, Citibank. Like, these are the biggest institutions in the world, and they're hiring people for crypto. So crypto is building. So this guy, he said a meme. How many times have we heard crypto is dead? umpteenth times. So many times that I've lost count. And I'll tell you, it is not dead. It is still building in the background, which is why it's super important to believe and to watch channels like mine, because I show you guys with proof that crypto is not dead. So I'm not just going to open a chart and be like, well, Bitcoin was here, it's down here, it's dead. I'm going to show you the background, what's actually happening, what's on the rails, and you guys should be paying attention to this. All right, moving on. We got Arizona SB 1649 proposal, a digital asset strategic reserve fund, and explicitly lists XRP. And I had to double check this because, you know, as an XRP holder, maybe I can zoom in. I like stuff like this. Actually, it's not going to let me. Anyways, you got to take my word for it. XRP is definitely in this post down here. See? And we are talking about states that are mentioning it. And again, I don't like to be the conspiracy guy that's pushing XRP, but you need to watch my XRP video that went out last week because I'm explaining that this network is different. So if you want to wait until next week to hear about my XRP versus Kita video, fine. But I've already laid out the framework. XRP, it separates itself, in my opinion, from number, was it 5? So you have Bitcoin, you have Ethereum. These two have separated themselves as these solidified 1 and 2, right? Bitcoin, Ethereum. Next, you have who is going to win the third spot. It's either going to be Solana or it's going to be XRP in terms of Western infrastructure. BNB, it's a wild card. I think Solana is too similar to Ethereum. They're both smart contract layers. Everything you could do on Solana, you could do on Ethereum. But in order to challenge it on the scalable aspect, you would have to use a scaling solution like Base. But with XRP, this is a whole different settlement layer. They are focused, again, on the peer-to-peer networks. And I think that use case differentiation is what's going to solidify them as the number 3 player. And the states agree with me on that. So you guys let me know. I think this is a very good question. Who is going to win that third spot? XRP or Solana? And if you want to throw a little caveat in there, are these comparable with Ethereum? Can you see one of these two, like a Solana overtaking Ethereum? I mean, I would strongly disagree with that, but maybe some of y'all agree with that, as you've seen Solana gain a lot of traction, at least in this last bear market. So moving on, talked a little bit about Amazon earlier. You see your crypto bags down. If you would have put it in Amazon instead of Bitcoin, you would still be down. So don't continue to beat yourself up as an investor. Once one asset class goes down, as long as it has the same, like, you go either towards risk or against risk, it's most likely going to go down with it. So you would have put it in the stock market instead of Bitcoin, it would probably go down. Now we have a couple companies like Apple that are absolutely crushing it. They're close to their all-time high. So they're defying the norm, but most of the S&P 500 is still being propped up by the FANGs. In terms of the AI race, because this is something huge, I alluded on it earlier, that AI as a whole is going to be the most difficult thing to be able to get exposure to and make it count, right? I think, personally, Tesla, XAI, they're doing a phenomenal job. If they don't win the AI race, they have tons of other, because it's like a breadbasket or an ETF of disruptive companies. But if you don't want to just buy Tesla, you can wait for the OpenAIs and the SpaceXs of the world to go public, but they're going to drop at 1.5. I wouldn't be surprised to see over $2 trillion market cap whenever they actually release their IPOs to the public. And guess what? Those $2 trillion was insiders that you did not get to buy it with, which it sucks. It's like, why does society allow this, right? These private companies are able to get $2 trillion worth of investments. And then, which these are all people that have some sort of significant advantage to be able to get access to this type of opportunity, as opposed to the common man like you and me. So there's definitely room for subjective takes on this. But these are the two winners, the two clear winners in my eyes, is OpenAI and SpaceX in terms of public companies that will probably launch later this year. So And then we also got to think of the broader sense of things is what's different from like the 2008 collapse, what's different from the COVID dump, all of these things is society is completely changing with AI. There is no going back, right? So whenever the 2008 housing collapse happens, real estate's going to be the way to go after the price dropped 30, 40%. Whenever the COVID dump happened, you had good stocks like even Tesla went down, you buy the dip, you did well. At this point, you could be buying stocks that have had over $1 trillion market cap. They go down and they never recover. Like AI is going to absorb all of this. And the ones that I think are going to be the winners are the AI players and the robotics. So, and also energy. I think energy is going to be a huge way to be able to make money in the next couple of years. So let's continue to move on. We have what I think is the best blockchain in all of crypto in terms of just its diversification. You have Ethereum. So the market cap of RWIs on Ethereum surpasses $15 billion and is up 200% year to year. So the biggest use case that is continuing to gain adoption through this bear winter is RWAs. And the chosen network for RWAs is clearly Ethereum. So people are starting to tokenize all of their products, and we're talking about the biggest names in the world. Ethereum, Ethereum, Ethereum. Do not fade Ethereum. Just because it barely got up to its all-time high in November 2021 does not mean it's a dead chain. Stop looking at the price. Start looking at the fundamentals. All right, moving on, we got Tau. I briefly talked about it earlier, but Tau is having its Satoshi moment. So the founder of Tau, he is stepping away from it, which is pretty cool because when we think about ways that you can exploit networks, you always talking about how do you get in from the top down, right? It's going to be the number one most influential person of any network is going to be the creator or the founder. This guy, he finally got Tau to a position where it is decentralized. There's tons of different validators. The subnets are doing well. Everything is flourishing. They just had their halving event. They are proof of work networks similar to Bitcoin. The last thing to happen is you step away. And this is something that Charles Hoskinson actually did, or he's kind of done with Cardano, to the point where Voltaire era, which is the governance-focused part of their roadmap, is the last part. So you have to establish all of these things between developing the technology, distributing it, all the way until the end. Decentralization / governance are going to be the most important things. And this guy, the founder of Tau, finally did the most important part, is he allows people to make those next steps just by owning Tau and then voting on their proposals. So you own some Tau, you should be happy that this is happening. And definitely want to give this guy thanks because he has pumped my bags. I bought Tau pretty low, I'll be honest. And I have never sold and I'm not going to sell for a while. At least in 2029 is probably the earliest that I'm going to sell most of my crypto. But I think Tau is going to be a big winner going forward. Next up, we have when do I think the earliest the recovery is going to be? So currently we're in bear winter. When's the earliest that I can see crypto do an up and right action? First of all, crypto's not going to do any up and right action until the macro conditions get better. So with all of these tensions happening, forget about it. Even if the Market Clarity Act passes, that does not mean crypto's automatically going to boom, right? You still got the 4-year cycle play. You still have global tensions and everything else. But we said the Clarity Act will most likely pass, and I took the most influential people that are on this topic, and I found out when they think it's going to pass. So the secretary, Scott Bessent, he says spring 2026, alongside the number one governing politician, which would be Senator Cynthia Lummis, who has her fingerprints all over this. Next up, we have Brad Garlinghouse. So on the crypto front, you have two people that stick out more than everybody else. Brad Garlinghouse and Brian Armstrong. So the CEO of Coinbase and the founder of Ripple Labs and XRP, the XRP ledger. And I would say lastly, Jamie Dimon. So he would be probably that next sector. So you have the politicians, you have the crypto heads, and then you have the banks. These are going to be the most important people. And Jamie Dimon's take is kind of like smart contracts are here, tokenization is going to happen. He's starting to buy into we can get Bitcoin and lend it out. So he's starting to get on board. So we have the most important people, politicians, banks, and crypto heads getting on board. and 75% chance, I think actually Brad pushes up to 80% if I'm not mistaken, by the end of April. And I heard this whenever he was talking about it in XRP Community Day. So last week, which is why I dropped my XRP video, is because XRP Community Day had their annual event, and I listened to what was going on, and I had to release the information to you guys because that's what I do here at Crux of Crypto. So I focus the crypto content and how do we get ahead of this stuff, and that is your probability, folks. Spring of 2026 is going to be I would say, if we don't go into Q3, Q4 of this year bottoming out, this is going to be your best opportunity to break that early. It's going to be the Market Clarity Act passing in spring. So, all right. Lastly, I dropped this video, Ondo versus Canton. It's doing very well right now. It's about 13 minutes long, just under, and you'll learn a ton about both of these projects. These are the best two RWA projects in all of crypto, best risk to reward projects out there. And RWA's got to be very careful on, because a lot of times there's TVL that's on these ecosystems. Plume, for example, at one point Plume had over 600 mil. I think it was like 700 and something million TVL, and it's closer to like maybe just over 100 mil now. So whatever they had tokenized on that blockchain, so Plume, they released their own layer 1 blockchain, was volatile. So what you don't want is volatile things that you're tokenizing. So if I'm going to tokenize gold, if I'm going to tokenize silver, those are, I mean, meh in terms of what is volatile. You know, tokenizing real estate, that's not very volatile. But if I'm tokenizing a ton of products that go down 80% in a 6-month span, then I got to be careful. So always do you do your due diligence on what are they tokenizing and is it going to survive? So and that's not to spread FUD on Plume. I still own my Plume bags, but these two are going to be your big winners in terms of industries that are figured out how to get on blockchains and then create additional products to push out to society. So, all right, very long-winded there. I got all the news out, and let's just wrap this up on some Q&A segments. Okay, so RN Capital says, I watch sometimes if I'm not busy, but I'll always listen while I'm at work. So he's a diesel mechanic here till I'm home. So that's pretty cool. You know, I in my past life, I was an Army infantry officer, and before that, I was a correctional officer. So I've done it all. I've seen it all, and I think it's super cool that all walks of life, depending on if you're a diesel mechanic, if you're, I don't know, maybe a financial advisor, maybe one of y'all are watching this type of content. It's pretty cool that we can all come together and find a common relation in terms of where the world's moving and how do we monetize it. So just make sure you're focusing on your work and you don't screw on one of the wrong nuts in a different spot and you'll be fine. All right, he learns every day. RNX Capital learns every day. And you're one of my top. Look at that. We got some support there. RN Capital, you are getting mod status because you just buttered up crypto, or Crux of Crypto. So I'm definitely going to give you a moderator status. So there you go. And for those that are still around, if you have not gotten moderator status, throw a comment in the comments, and I'll make sure to hook you up. So Solana will catch Ethereum in 20 years. Daniel, 20 years. Look, Bitcoin's not even 20 years old. Bitcoin came out in 2009. It is only 2026. So that's a long time. In 20 years, Ethereum is either going to be worth $0 or probably over $100,000 in 20 years. And that's crazy. That is crazy. Like, Crux, where'd you just come up with that? I'm looking at TVL metrics. If you look at all of tokenized real world assets, 80% is on Solana. And real world assets is the biggest thing that's being tokenized currently. But if you look at any TVL metric from DeFi to anything, Ethereum is leading the way. Ethereum is absolutely crushing it. Over 50, I think 58% of all liquidity that's positioned on these networks is built on Ethereum. So it is the new internet. It is what we call Web3, Internet 2.0, whatever you want to call it. It is there, and it's not going anywhere. So Solana, if Ethereum figures it out, if it's able to scale itself on the base layer, Solana is in trouble. Let's just say that. Angel says, click that like. I agree with Angel. Click the like. If this is your first time, I'm Crux. I'm a fundamental analyst, and I try to do my best to spit facts and educate myself when I'm not on screen. So virtuals over render, I would agree with that. I used to have virtuals and render at number 2, but now I have tau, virtual, render, and then everything else. You have like Aether and some other good plays, but you got to let these things weed themselves out. Yeah, and really the only reason the render is still that high up is because their founder, I really like Jules, and I like kind of what the foundation is doing. So the use case isn't exactly the best, but if one of those 3 projects fails, I think render has the highest probability of failing of those 3. Really, if we look at like OpenClaw and the impact that AI agents has had on society as of late, it's crazy. It is massive. And I think AI agents is going to be what pioneers this next wave of crypto. So next bull market, I think virtuals is going to go viral. Okay, Daniel, the common man do not stand a chance. Get what you can, for sure. And that's really how systems work, right? So it's all about competing amongst each other, right? So the value of $1, see, we got $1 here, we got 5 here. We got a little money. So Crux will make a little money. This is all relative to people on our left and our right. Like someone like Elon Musk, he's much more intelligent than we are. For example, he's going to be able to get access to that money easier. People are going to buy into his vision. He's selling a product. People accept that. Now, what we have to do is figure out how to compete against the people that are on our playing field, our next door neighbors. And that's how you get ahead really in life in general. See, as long as you're smarter than the people, like the average people around you, you're going to do good. So continue to educate yourself. Most of society isn't listening to content creators or YouTube streams, but you are. So you're definitely going to get ahead in that aspect, and you will be rewarded for it. Coinbase versus Ripple. I actually have a next versus video. Debating if I should tell you guys. So after the XRP versus Kita video that drops next week, every week I drop a verse video. The next video is going to be Ondo Finance versus X stocks. So yes, I've been dropping a lot of content on Ondo. I've gotten this. Actually, Tim is the one who really wanted me to put it out there. But somebody, and I was telling Tim, like, I'll think about it. Somebody else later that day DM'd me. So shout out Shannon if you're in chat. But too many people are asking me about X stock versus Ondo, and I need to clear up that battle. So I will do that one. But after that, you were asking Coinbase versus Ripple, Coinbase versus Bank. Daniel, you did ask me about that one, and I need to do that one. And I think phrasing it from like, I wonder if I did like Jamie Dimon versus Brian Armstrong. You know, as far as like the Market Clarity Act is what they're competing against, you know, given both of their takes and then choosing a side. Maybe that's the best way to frame that one. Or maybe just Coinbase versus banks. Maybe that's a good one. So Canton versus Kita. So these are 2 completely different technologies. To be fair, I did do Canton versus XRP. So, and that one got a ton of views. So KG Crypto, I would get a lot of views. I'd actually get more views because the Kita community loves me. I'm in their Discord. I'm sharing all their content. You guys love me. And I'll be honest, the reason I've been able to grow the way I have is mainly because of Caspa, Kita, and a couple other communities, the altcoins in particular. And I will always, like Crux always says, Bitcoin is the king of crypto, but I will always push for the big names of these altcoins that I think are going to win. Because it's too easy. It's too easy to just say, go out, buy Bitcoin, hodl it, and never sell it, right? I'm trying to look at how do I change life? How do I disrupt innovation? How do I change the way JP Morgan has things set up? Well, Bitcoin's not going to do it. It's altcoins. So I see myself more as a visionary, not chasing the numbers. I am chasing just the disruption. So thank you, KG, for giving me that idea. But continue to throw those verses in the comments after I go ahead and leave the stream. And who knows, I may choose that one next. So thank you all for supporting me. It's been over 70 minutes since I started this live stream, and I appreciate each and every one of you guys. I love you guys,